Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take sources you're interested in and really get into the core insights. Basically, a shortcut so you can feel informed without, drowning in info.
Exactly. And today we're looking at a specific YouTube video.
Right. It's from the V Etc. channel titled Toy 24 Min Simp Sun Vas Salsak at Mei Chan Gen Z Troyan SS3 EP3.
Hmm.
It's a conversation with Trang, who many of you probably know as the content creator Mei Chan.
Yeah, she's pretty well known.
So our mission, if you will, for this deep dive is to explore her experiences. She's young, a content creator navigating life after graduation, career stuff, personal growth, all through the lens of this one conversation.
And it's compelling because it feels, well, quite raw. You get this glimpse into someone at a real turning point, letting go of that student identity and facing all the possibilities and the uncertainties of starting out, especially online.
Okay, let's jump right in then. The video starts and Trang picks a tarot card. Her immediate reaction, Troy, basically, oh my God, help me. That really grabs your attention, doesn't it?
It does. And, if you think about it, that exclamation, it kind of perfectly captures that anxiety so many people feel right after graduation. For years, her identity was really tied up in being a student, specifically a student in Korea.
Yeah.
Now that framework is gone.
Right.
And that sense of self she had, it feels like it's dissolving, leaving this void and the huge question of, okay, what now?
Then she pulls another card. This one is Ang Banyo Ban then, which means busy loving myself.
Okay.
But she explains that while self-love is usually important to her, it's something she kind of forgets about when all these anxieties start creeping in.
Yeah, that's relatable. It's a good reminder that even when we know what's good for us, our best intentions can get, lost in the shuffle when we're feeling overwhelmed or stressed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's that very human thing, isn't it? Knowing what we need for our own well-being, but finding it hard to actually do it when we're stressed or facing the unknown, like a disconnect between the head and the heart, sort of.
Yeah. But then there's a bit of hope with the next card she picks. It's Tinhu Vutru Seden Vuim Daugande, like signals from the universe will come to me recently.
Okay, interesting.
And this card represents something bringing her joy, a feeling that positive changes are coming. It's a nice contrast to that first help me moment.
Yeah, and what's interesting there is, even with those feelings of being lost, there's still this this underlying optimism, a belief that things will get better.
Right.
It shows a kind of resilience, a refusal to let the current uncertainty totally define her. It's like that little voice inside saying, just hang on, good stuff is on the way.
But then we get two bun or sad cards. The first one is Hakan Kashkatoy Chevik Cho now, my personalities divide the work among themselves.
Okay.
And the second, Bun Tantunying Bun Kong Dam Noi, which translates to something like Bun is hurt, but Bun doesn't dare to speak. Let's talk about that second one first, the Bun Tontang. That feels quite deep.
It really does. I mean, she's 24, and she's reflecting on past relationship hurts, maybe even traumas, that she feels she hasn't fully dealt with or even talked about.
Yeah.
And this seems to have created a sort of hesitancy around love now. It suggests these unresolved things are still casting a shadow, affecting how she feels and approaches relationships in the present. It's a powerful reminder, isn't it, that our past, even the stuff we try to push down, it often shapes how we see things and act now, sometimes in really subtle ways.
It's interesting how she gives this hurt a name, Bun, like acknowledging this vulnerable part of herself, even if she's not quite ready to face it head on.
Exactly. And then there's the other sad card, the Kaksan Kash. The personalities dividing the work. What does that suggest to you?
Well, it sounds like internal conflict, doesn't it? Like a tug of war inside.
Yeah, I think so. She mentions wanting to be decisive, to just act, but then there's this strong tendency to overthink everything, analyze it to death. So it creates this feeling of having multiple Trangs inside. One's ready to go, the other's hitting the brakes, thinking. I think a lot of us can relate to that feeling, being pulled in different directions by our own thoughts.
Absolutely. Wanting to move, but feeling stuck in your own head.
Okay, so moving on to life after graduation. She talks about the joy of being done with studying, no more deadlines.
Oh, yeah, that feeling.
I think we can all connect with that one.
Definitely. That sense of freedom is huge. But, she says, it's quickly followed by this pretty significant worry about not having a clear direction or purpose anymore. Now that the structure of being a student is gone, that shift from a defined role to this wide open future, it can feel Amazing, but also, yeah, really unsettling, like stepping out of a lit room into the dark.
But it's good that she seems to keep this positive outlook, this strong belief that she can figure it out despite the uncertainty. That resilience seems really key here. It is. It's not just seeing the problems, but having that core faith in your own ability to adapt and, work things out. That's the engine that keeps you going when the path isn't clear at all.
She then compares her 8 years in university to the host's experience in the video. Apparently, they found their passion while still studying.
Right.
And this brings up an interesting point about how Ha Trang's own identity as Mei Chan, the content creator, has changed over time.
Yeah, what's fascinating is how her online stuff started, really centered on her life as a student in Korea, sharing those experiences, the lifestyle.
Uh-huh.
Then naturally it expanded. More tips, beauty advice, often still linked to Korea in some way. But now she's graduated, so that core part of her online identity is shifting.
Exactly. And she even mentions maybe wanting to live somewhere else, another country, which signals she wants to be more than just the girl who studied in Korea. And that leads to this, well, this really crucial question for any creator in her spot. Does the audience like her because she was a student in Korea, or do they like her, Maiken, the person, no matter what she's doing?
That's a huge challenge, isn't it? For any creator whose early success is tied to one specific thing, like a life stage or a niche,
Hmm.
as they grow and change, will the audience come along?
Right.
It brings up big questions about, how to stay true to yourself, but also manage the expectations of the people who followed you from the start.
She also talks about feeling like she has lots of flaws and worries. And significantly, she says she wants to share a more authentic, less polished side of herself going forward.
Oh, okay.
That feels like a direct response to that identity question, doesn't it?
Mm,
Trying to connect on a different level.
absolutely. By showing more vulnerability, pulling back the curtain on the curated online image,
Mm-hmm.
she's trying to build that deeper connection based on who she is as a person, not just what she did as a student abroad.
Mm.
It's probably a smart move for like long-term sustainability
Mm.
and just feeling authentic online.
And it connects to what she says about audience expectations, too. Like, people expect her to be funny all the time because of her online persona.
Right.
But she points out, hey, humor's just one part of me. It's a good reminder for all of us. Really, what you see online is usually just the highlights.
Yeah, that pressure to constantly perform, constantly entertain, it must be exhausting. It really shows that tricky balance creators have to find between being themselves and playing the role people expect, like being typecast.
Okay, let's get into some personal quirks she mentions. She calls herself Sun, which means something like fiery or impatient.
Ah, okay.
And she says it's something she's had to consciously work on since she was a kid.
That's interesting. It adds another layer to her, and it shows, well, self-awareness. It's always revealing when people can identify their own tendencies and talk about working on them.
And then she talks about her Dadu, her tattoo. It's a reminder for her to be calm.
A tattoo reminder. Okay.
Yeah, despite that quick-tempered side she mentioned. And she says it's in a hidden spot.
Oh.
Yeah, which makes it feel very personal, like a private commitment to herself.
That physical reminder, it says a lot about how seriously she takes that personal growth goal.
Yeah.
And keeping it hidden suggests it's really for her, an internal motivator, not something she needs to show off.
Yeah. Then there's a lighter moment where the V Etc. host asks about their own interesting trait and they joke, "Of course I'm not interesting. I am the interest."
Huh. Nice. A bit of fun banter.
Keeps things moving, breaks it up a bit.
Yeah. Stops it getting too heavy.
So Ha Trang then talks about feeling like she has two sides. One is humorous and outgoing, the other is more introspective, and she links the second side to being an Aquarius.
Okay. That idea of duality, having different sides depending on the situation or just your internal state, it's pretty common, I think.
Yeah.
And using astrology as a way to understand those different parts of yourself, lots of people find that helpful for making sense of their own complexity.
She also says something really interesting about regret. She tends to regret moments when she was overly joyful and maybe made mistakes because she was too high energy.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah. Contrasting it with people who usually regret moments of anger, it's kind of the opposite regret, isn't it?
It really is. It suggests maybe she's very aware of the downsides of impulsivity, even positive impulsivity,
Yeah.
and maybe puts a high value on being composed and careful.
Could be.
It's a reminder that even good feelings, if they're not checked, can lead to things we wish we hadn't done.
She also touches on questioning her identity because she feels she's good at a lot of different things, has various skills, but she wonders what she's truly excellent at, what she really wants to pursue seriously.
Wow, yes, that feeling.
That feeling of having too many options, maybe, but no single clear focus, seems very common, especially for people in their 20s.
Absolutely. I mean, we're often encouraged to try lots of things, develop different skills, which is great, but then it can be really hard to narrow it down, pick a path. That pressure to find your one true thing can be pretty intense.
Which leads perfectly into this hypothetical question they ask her. If time and money were no object, what would you do?
Okay, I'm curious.
Her answer, writing romance novels, specifically Van Zwan Vung, those high school or youth romance stories.
Oh, wow. That's kind of unexpected and delightful.
Isn't it?
It gives you a glimpse into maybe a hidden passion, something totally different from her online work that clearly brings her joy, taps into a different creative side.
Yeah, and she connects it to loving her own school days and just the simple pleasure she gets from reading those kinds of stories. It shows a more nostalgic, maybe sentimental side.
It really highlights how our own history, the books or movies we love, can shape these quiet aspirations and offer comfort. And wanting to create that same feeling for others, that's a strong motivator.
Okay, switching gears a bit to love and relationships. She describes her approach as like all in, totally committed.
Mm-hmm.
But also, she says she can end things quickly if it's just not working out.
That sounds like a pretty healthy balance, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a mix of emotional investment, but also strong self-preservation.
Yeah.
She's open to connecting, but she has boundaries and isn't afraid to, put her own well-being first.
She also admits she tries to hide it when she likes someone,
Oh, yeah.
but apparently she's terrible at it and everyone can tell anyway.
Huh, that's funny. And yeah, very human. That gap between what we try to project and what actually comes across, especially with feelings, very relatable.
Then there's this game segment, Hydak Thought, like a stand-up monologue thing where the host tries to make her laugh.
Okay.
And she's initially a bit resistant, especially to forced humor, which seems consistent, right? Authenticity seems key for her.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a fun segment, probably lets her real personality show through more. And yeah, not liking manufactured jokes suggests she prefers genuine moments.
They use joke cards about Korea, and there's a final sort of playful battle between the hosts to get her to laugh. It definitely lightens the mood after some of the deeper stuff.
Yeah, it's a good way to shift the energy and show another side of her, how she reacts spontaneously.
Then they move into talking about challenges. She discusses feeling really overwhelmed and deciding to go back to Vietnam for a gap year. This was after feeling kind of stuck in Korea, especially during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. That must have been a big decision. And probably tough. She mentioned the added pressure because she had to make it public, right?
Yeah, exactly. It highlights that extra layer creators deal with, where personal struggles can become public knowledge.
For sure.
And she realized during that break that she doesn't really know how to truly rest. She always feels this need to be doing something, to be productive.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that struggle is so common in our culture, isn't it? That constant pressure to be productive and how hard it is to just
Yeah.
stop and let yourself recharge. It's a recipe for burnout.
Her usual ways to unwind, eating, watching movies, scrolling TikTok.
Pretty standard coping mechanisms, I guess.
Yeah.
Common ways to get a temporary break, find some relaxation, even if they're not always the deepest form of rest.
And finally, they get into her financial situation, specifically talking about when she lived in a Kanhambanwoot, a semi-basement apartment back in Korea.
Ah, okay. The semi-basement.
Yeah. And she's clear this was the cheapest option, a practical financial choice. Not because she couldn't afford anything else, necessarily.
Right, context is important.
And she says initially she was happy there, felt independent.
Which is great. That feeling matters more than the place sometimes.
But then came this moment in an online class where her professor kind of recognized the apartment type,
Oh, no.
and it led to her classmates feeling sorry for her. That shift in how people saw her because of where she lived must have been really jarring.
Definitely. It really shows how other people's judgments, society's ideas about what's successful, or even just normal, can mess with your own sense of self-worth, even if you feel okay about your situation.
Yeah.
That contrast between her initial happiness and then feeling embarrassed later, it speaks volumes about those outside pressures.
She shares another time she felt a bit awkward about her place, not wanting to invite friends over after being out. Just shows how those subtle social things can influence how we feel about ourselves and what we do.
Exactly. It's often those comparisons, right? Comparing ourselves to others that can chip away at our own contentment, even if our needs are met and we feel generally secure.
But ultimately, her perspective on happiness and money is really insightful. She emphasizes that her internal feeling of security, knowing she could manage her life, that was way more important than living somewhere fancy.
That's a powerful point. She gets that true happiness, that well-being. It often comes from inside, not just from external stuff like where you live or how much money you have.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, it feels like Ha Trang's conversation gives us this really um, nuanced and relatable picture of a young creator navigating a pretty complicated time of life.
Absolutely. Her honesty about the uncertainties, the dreams, even the vulnerabilities, it offers really valuable insights into that early 20s mindset, figuring things out, but doing it very publicly and in a fast-changing world.
We really hope that you, listening, found some interesting takeaways in her story, her thoughts on life after graduation, identity, growing up.
Yeah.
And maybe here's a final thought for you to chew on. How much do those unspoken societal ideas about success and stability affect how you feel about yourself, even when you're actually feeling content or pursuing what you define as fulfilling? Maybe reflect on that balance in your own life, the pull between needing outside approval versus cultivating that inner satisfaction.